All right, it's 8:30, and we'll go ahead and get started. Hi, everybody. Thanks for joining us bright and early. Happy to see everybody here today. First, we'll get some introductions out of the way, and we'll dive right into it. So I'm Nikita Prokopev, founder and head of product at Pharos AI. And today, helping me as well is Mr. Matt Kaufman. Matt?
Thanks, Nikita. I'm Matt Kaufman, founder and CEO of Mama Merch.
Great. Yeah, so just to set the stage real quick, Matt and I are both senior engineers. I've been at it since '06. Matt, how about you? You started earlier.
'02.
Yeah, way too long, but it's been a fun journey. So, what we're going to talk about today is some points about AI that you may not have heard of, but I think these are going to come up more and more as we go into the future. Some of these are a little bit too far into the future, but with the way that AI is developing, I think we're going to come across them sooner than later. So, without further ado, let's start with some of this. This is stuff, right? You guys have seen this. I have to have it on the slide.
We don't work at Salesforce anymore. Don't listen to anything we say if it comes to buying.
Yep. Right, yeah, basically. Okay, you read all of this, great. How about some light humor?
Yeah.
So Matt and I were preparing for this talk, and we figured we'd throw in some AI jokes in here. So this is generated by AI.
We did not know it would be an 8:30 talk when we did this. We probably would go better in the afternoon. Sorry.
Well, these are kind of fun. I mean, not something that a stand-up comedian would use, but they're decent. Made me chuckle a few times. All right. I don't know if you guys have done your morning yoga, but the AI has, and here's what it looks like. So, something new. All right, let's move on to point number one of our discussion today. And the way we're going to do this, Matt and I will kick it off. We'll do a little back and forth, and then we'd love to hear from you guys as well. This concerns all of us, so please voice your opinion. We'll do our best to get your voice heard. All right, so this point here is something that I thought of. So I'm heavily involved in the development of AI within our own product. And as I was doing that work, it occurred to me that are we too much in love with the AI? I mean, as a senior engineer, I find it super helpful. I mean, you guys have all seen the session here on, Einstein GPT and what it can do for you, code generation. It's super crazy. Matt, how about you? Are you leveraging AI today for your day-to-day?
Yeah, I use it. Is this on? Can you hear me? Can't hear me. I didn't do anything.
Uh-oh.
I can project.
Here you go.
Right. All right. Yeah. So I do use it. Usually it's when I'm
it's
lazy, and I'm like, oh, I gotta work on something, and I'm procrastinating. I will use AI for that. So it's always stuff that I know how to do already, or I could figure out how to do, and I just don't want to bother. And so it's more of a starter. It's not replacing my job. It's not replacing any employee's job because I wouldn't task an employee with that. It's really just kind of getting me to do my job a little faster. So yeah, that's how I use it.
Yeah, so I'm kind of in the same boat. Need a batch job, draft it up. Yeah, this is it.
I'll see if I can.
Bonk on it.
Keep going. Yeah.
Yeah, AI is not going to help us there.
Oh yeah, it's one second left.
Yeah, so again, I'm in the same job, in the same boat here with this. It's great. Draft a batch job, write some unit tests, get an anonymous Apex out there to seed some data in the sandbox. All these things are, used to have to do it from scratch. Now you can just code gen. And as I was doing this, I was thinking, hey, this is the kind of tasks that you would start by doing when you're a junior. By the way, from the audience here, anybody been in the ecosystem for a year or two? Oh, okay. All right. Yeah, a couple people, right? So as you're just starting out, this is the kind of stuff you work on. You may be asked to write a trigger or write a batch job, write some unit tests, something simple. Nobody's going to get you in the project and get you started on something complex, right? You have to learn by doing, and you have to start with the basics. Now, what's happening now is that these basics are not going to be done by people anymore because AI is quite good at them, as we just pointed out. So how are the juniors, our up-and-coming talents, how are they going to come up the ranks if they have no ability to learn or will not have the ability to learn soon? So that's the question that's been bothering me. And I don't know, Matt, what's your take?
Yeah. So I thought about this a lot because we were preparing for this talk. And actually, I was at a Heroku event the other night, and they said something really interesting. They were saying that junior developers are actually using AI more because it allows them to figure out what they need to do without having to go talk to a more senior person or a mentor. So it's not replacing the junior folks. It's just we're kind of automating the training of them. So in a way, the AI is helping us and not taking away the job. For me, I think that no matter what, we're going to need someone to do some work. And there'll always be then someone who has to review that work. So in a way, the junior has now become a senior. Their junior is the AI. Right? And then maybe we'll have an architect that looks over the whole thing. So, if I typically when I ask AI for something, I'm asking for a very specific small unit of code. So like a unit test is a good example. Yeah. A small function. So I actually tested this out. I asked ChatGPT for write a JavaScript function that will find one object in an array of objects where a value matches a string that I put in there. So for instance, we had a list of people, list of contacts, and I was looking for where the first name's equal to Matt. I know how to do it. I've done it before. I just don't remember how to do it. And so I could either go Google it or I can just ask ChatGPT to do it. And that's the kind of thing that a junior would do also. They would just say, okay, they can go figure it out. I don't want my junior developer spending 3 hours figuring out something that they could have Googled. So this is just a faster way of doing it. That's the way I see it.
Okay. Yeah, that's a good point. I really like this, that you're not embarrassed to ask AI these questions, right? If you go and ask your mentor, they might think, well, this person is, they should know these things, right? What are they doing talking to me about it?
Right. You've been here 6 months and you don't know how to do this yet?
You know how to do a basic batch job? Come on, man.
Right.
All right. Well, another analogy that I came up with was, I don't know, how many of you guys have heard of the assembly language? Oh, fair amount. Great. Yeah. So for those of you that don't know, back in the 80s, that was the hot thing, right? If you wanted to write anything halfway decent, you had to use assembly language. And that thing is not meant for humans. Like that stuff, when you look at it, it's totally different from the languages that we see today. It's very low level. It pushes data between registries and crunches numbers, and that's what people have to do. But nowadays, you can't even find an assembly programmer unless you go out to like 3D graphics or some niche device development. That's maybe where you'll find it. And people don't even learn from that level. They launch right into a higher level concepts right away. So yeah, I think we're going to see something like that where the prompting is going to be the new thing, right?
Yeah. So the other thing is we use a lot of terms. We say software engineer, we say developer, we say coder, sometimes we say app builder. But there's also the term programmer. And so if you take it really down low, I studied linguistics, so I tend to be hypercritical about words. A programmer tells the computer what to do. They're programming it to do step 1, step 2, step 3. The prompt stuff is the same thing. We're just programming the AI what to do by speaking or writing words instead of writing actual code. So I really don't see the job changing. It's just the tool that's changing. And an analogy would be like a stenographer, right? At some point, people were taking notes and writing down in, I guess, printing or cursive or on tablets, chipping it away. And then
ancient monks,
exactly.
manuscripts.
Right, people, whatever it was, there was like a very slow process to record. Oh, there we go. To record words, and then we got we'll do shorthand. Then they got typewriters, and then they got the faster typewriters, and now it's just we don't have one here, but the keynotes, it's doing it by itself. So we still do the same thing. We're just using new tools. I see this really as a tool that programmers will use to program, but that means that the programmers still exist. They're still doing the programming. Right. We just have a new tool to help.
Right. Yeah. So one thing I'll throw at that is you might get good at prompting one LLM, right? And that's all well and good, and you learn and you know how to ask it a certain way. But then another LLM comes out, which is going to be happening more and more often, right? And then all your prompts are garbage. I don't know if you guys remember, but when GPT 3.5 was around and then 4.0 came out, we had to throw away all our prompts. And the way you verify a prompt is, if you think about that, it's a very, very human task, right? And AI cannot verify its own correctness, not yet. So as you're switching to a new LLM and you're a junior and you know how to ask it a certain way, you come up to a new version, all of a sudden it doesn't work anymore. And you don't have the skills to know whether what it's outputting is in fact correct.
Yeah, another thing you can think about is like front-end engineers versus back-end engineers. I probably could ask ChatGPT to write some JavaScript code because I've done that, but I don't even know how to begin to ask it to make these images. and then to get the images to be correct. We're going to show you a lot of examples of these bad images. So that's somebody who's probably not a front-end prompt engineer, right? They don't know how to ask it. So I think the buzzwords on our resumes in the future are going to be things like front-end prompt engineer, back-end prompt engineer, and then which languages and which models you know, right?
So you're going to be specialized in prompting. Like right now, it's just all prompting, but in the future, we might see very, very niche areas of prompting, and that's going to be your path, right?
Yeah.
All right. Well, this is interesting, but let's move on to our next point here. But before we do, I don't know, guys, it's been raining a lot recently, and you got to hold on to that umbrella.
Yeah. So this is a back-end engineer. This one. Yeah, for sure.
All right. Point number 2. So this is an interesting one because, well, as an engineer, it's a lot easier to write code from scratch because you know exactly what's going on, you know exactly how you're going to do it. But Matt, would you say that modifying existing code is harder?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I mean, if you were to show me code right now, I'd be like, oh, this is terrible. It doesn't matter if I wrote it 3 months ago, right? You look at someone else's code or your own, and you're like, this is really bad. It's rare that I say, oh, this is beautiful. This is a masterpiece. I couldn't have done it any better. But if I were to start from scratch writing it, at that moment that I'm done, I'm like, wow, I did it. It's so great. So, it's kind of weird. It's an experience. When you write new code, it seems easier. You're more satisfied than when you look at existing code. It's just not fun.
You just know. And let alone code that's not the greatest quality. Yeah. That's just the worst nightmare of everybody. And that's what we have to do every day, right? This is when you come up to a project, you don't write things from scratch. You are stuck with the baggage. So there's a little study over here in this article linked. I think it's white paper. And for those of you that can't quite see the table, I don't blame you. I'm just going to summarize it for you. So what they did was they put different LLMs against the same code base, and they wanted to measure how well AI performs at refactoring. And by refactoring, we mean that we're going to keep the existing functionality, but we're going to try and improve the code quality. And so what happened here was the leftmost column where it's all green, that means the code is valid, right? So AI generated valid code. It compiled, which is awesome, right? It's working code. Then column number 2 says, did the code quality actually improve? And it did. So the lowest score was 68%, and the highest score was 78%. So it did improve code quality quite a bit, which is what we want, right? That's the point of refactoring. But the problem starts in column number 3, where it's all red. And the best score out of that bunch is 37%.
No, it's 18.
And 18 is the worst, yeah. So 18% of the functionality worked correctly in the worst case, and 37% worked in the best case. And that's just not acceptable. If you think about it, right, you prompt an LLM to do something, and it does it for you. It spits out a bunch of code, and you didn't write it, right? So it's not like you wrote it from scratch. You understand you can fix those bugs, but you still have to fix those bugs.
But that's job security.
There you go. Yeah, so I would argue at that point, then why just even use AI for this at all? So AI is just plain not good at this. So Matt, what do you think? I mean, what is it? Is it going to get better? Is it going to stay the same? Are we not going to be using AI for this very big pain point here?
So I tested this also when I had asked the AI ChatGPT to write that function. It did it in, well, let's just say old school JavaScript. So, and I recognized it was just for loop. I was like, I know there's another way to do it. I actually could write this code if I spent the time to do it. So then I had to revise my prompt and say, write it with ES6, and it rewrote it. And I could probably keep asking over and over to get, these small improvements. But at some point, then I might as well have just done it myself.
Right.
So I think it will get better. I think they'll develop languages where, ideally, it would go straight to the latest version of JavaScript.
Right.
Why are we even looking at the old stuff?
Right.
But that's going to take time. Or you have to get better at prompts, where you're basically writing a really robust prompt ahead of time, and then you ask this one small question.
Right, and you start refining it. Yeah. I guess the other thing that we could do is, AI is great at summarizing. We all know that, right? So feed it some legacy code, have it try to summarize it for you. That'll get you started in the refactoring process, right? Because if you have no idea what it's doing, there's no documentation, that's a great way to go about it. You have some knowledge at this point. Yeah, maybe not rely on the generated code, but at least provide some structure and start with that. The other thing I think that's going to happen is, I think AI is going to get better at this, and it will improve, and quite quickly. But there's still going to be, like, even if you look at that rightmost column, yeah, 37% is horrible, but even 90% is pretty bad because that means there's a lot of bugs still in there. And so, are we going to see more emphasis on testing, as in like QA, or maybe runtime monitoring is going to be more of a thing because hey, you got to catch those errors in production, right? Is that, Matt, what do you think?
Yeah, so I was talking with a friend about this yesterday, and if you use AI to generate unit tests right now for Apex, it doesn't do the assertions. It just makes sure that your lines of code are passing. And so if everyone's going to do that, then do we even need unit tests? Do we need the 75%? At some point it's like, well, that does, what's the point?
Flies out the window
Right.
there.
So we're ignoring the spirit of the law. We're following the rule of the law.
Yeah.
So it's a huge issue. We either are going to just say, you know what, forget it, throw it all out the door,
Yeah.
or people are going to have to go in and then actually make sure that things are logical and that we're testing the business rules
Right.
and not just line 5, line 6, line 7.
Yeah, that's a good point. Anyway, very interesting research papers. So you guys, these slides will be shared. So have a look. And before we move on to the next one, a little instructional tutorial for you on how to eat a hamburger. You know.
So when I first saw this, I noticed the guy not eating the hamburger properly. But this is what really freaked me out down here. That the look of the hamburger, like the top bun is so much bigger than the bottom bun. This is a bagel over here, I think. It's just there's so many mistakes in this.
Yeah. All right. Our last point for the day is actually quite simple. So we all know how LLMs are trained. They're trained on public data, and there's plenty of it, and it's all human generated at this point. Now we're going to start seeing AI dump more of its output into the public domain. So guess what? It's going to be used to train the next generation of LLMs. So there's going to be this dogfooding thing going on. And this article linked over here is talking about this exact thing. And so, are we going to see a point of diminishing returns where the LLM is just kind of trained on its own output and it gets worse and worse over time? What's going to happen here? So one of the things that they're talking about is the only way to fix that is to periodically infuse the LLM with truly human-generated content. And that raises the question of, are we going to have certified human content, like certified organic vegetables or something like that? Is that what's going to happen, Matt?
Yeah. So I can remember a time where that probably existed, the thing of called a data analyst or a data scientist, but it wasn't a job that we saw a lot. And it seems like it wasn't that long ago. Time moves quickly. I think that this is a job that we're going to start seeing. So we're not just going to have the programmer / prompt engineer people. We're going to have this other quality of person who is there to look at, okay, is this good material to train with, or is this bad material?
Right.
And then if it is good, we somehow, put some type of certification, check mark, whatever it may be. It doesn't matter really if it was generated by AI or not. I think it's more about just the quality. Is it good?
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's true. Yeah. Also, I think there's going to be a premium price on human-generated content in the future because a lot of LLM vendors are going to need it to make sure their LLMs don't collapse. It's actually a term, model collapse, right? So they're going to pay a premium price for that, and your output will be worth a lot more just because you're human, and there are people willing to pay for it. So I think that's what's going to happen.
Yeah, I don't know if. Well, here we go. So I don't know if CAPTCHA is working on this. But I think those images, instead of saying find the bicycles, it should be find the images that are human generated, find the images that are AI generated. And then we're basically crowdsourcing to determine is this good or not. And maybe it'll even get to words like, read this sentence, does this make sense? Is this the definition of a tent or a guy camping?
A guy going camping. Yeah. Imagine training AI on this. We're just going to see stuff straight out of Summer of Love. It's going to be great. All right, well, we are at time over here. I just wanted to see if anybody has any questions or want to add anything. I'm happy to pass on the mic to you.
Right there.
Oh, I'm sorry.
There you go.
Okay, well, go ahead.
But you talked about job security.
Yeah.
So how do you think will there be less positions available because it's that faster?
Right.
What do you guys think on that?
Yeah. Oh, so just to repeat the question for everyone, the question is about job security. Are we going to have less positions available, and how is it going to affect us as a whole?
Obviously we don't know. right?
Yeah.
So if you go to the extreme and you look at like the steno pool at old offices, those jobs are all gone for sure. I assume those people are still would still be in the workforce, but doing different work. So it's probably going to be some type of ebbs and flows, ups and downs.
Yeah, and if you think about it, our jobs are not just writing code or building flows. We're doing it for the humans, right? For the other humans. And who's going to interact with the other humans? They're going to want to interact with humans too, right? So I think that human element is going to be more and more important, and in whatever role that could be conceived in the future, whether you're prompting or whether you're coding or whatnot.
Yeah, my guess is the more time you spend in meetings for your job, not because you want to be in the meetings, but because of the nature of the job, that probably means that you're going to have the job. Whereas if you're on a factory floor just doing the same thing over and over the whole time, that's more likely to get taken away from automation. Yeah. All right, well, thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Thanks for coming.
Thank you.